I hope she comes back very soon. There she is. Please come back. Is she coming back? Okay. Let us record this nonetheless. Yeah. So this is we are going to do a live class today on the presentation on assignment 1. And it really talks to very specific things. What are the expectations, how to interpret the question, identify sources, and where to find the sources. And this is very important. As final year students, I'm not going to say this is your assignment 1 question and this is where you should go look for things. You know, that is very important. We are talking generally about assignment 1 and that type of question. Assignment 1 is a partly essay type question where we ask you a very direct question, comparing and contrasting certain types of things. And so how do you approach that kind of questions? And generally with insurance law, where would you go and look for things? And I've put plagiarism on its own prominently because this is something we are very serious about. Dr. Wambe will talk to this a little bit as we go on. I'll initially talk about some of the expectations. Just to say that plagiarism is directly linked to what the university considers as unethical behavior. And as lawyers, we are not allowed to work in an unethical manner. So just keep that at the very forefront of your mind always. So what are our expectations? And this is, I think it's quite crucial and we don't always make this very clear to students. So I thought it's quite important that we make it incredibly clear. You are final year law students who have chosen to do insurance law. This is an optional course. You have chosen to do insurance law. It is a course that has general applications in people's lives. Insurance is part of this world that people utilize the services. It's a very useful thing to understand. So it's a lovely course to choose, but of course it is a final year course. So our expectations are that over the last 3 years, at the very least, you have acquired a series of skills and you have a level of expertise. And I truly believe that. I know my colleagues do an excellent job. You work very hard. All of the students work very hard to get to where you are. You juggle a lot of things, but you work incredibly hard, and I'm very appreciative of this. So what are the skills that we are looking at? We really believe that you already know how to read legal texts. You're not reading a case like you're reading a novel, for example. Not only can you read legal texts and legislation, which is quite important in this subject, and you can read the articles that are linked to both, you can then take that, understand it, and write logical, reasonable arguments that you put forward. And while doing so, you always set out your researched answers. And when I say researched answers, we need to see references in the form of footnotes. We need to see a nice table of contents. We need to see that there is an introduction, there's an engagement with the things, and there's a conclusion. And this, of course, I'll talk to in far greater detail when we talk about assignment 2, which is problem type questions. But you have to answer the question that is in front of you, not the question you would like to have, but the question that is before you. And answer it. So if I say, do you agree that X is the same as Y? You have to tell me yes or no. You actually get a mark for that. And then you can give me why you think it is the answer that you think it is. But again, first, always remember you have to answer the question put forward. So what is the format of an essay question? The question before you asks you to compare and contrast. But generally in essay questions, we want to see an introduction, a discussion, and a conclusion. Do not copy paste from either the textbook, which is also in electronic format, or any other sources that you have. Most of the cases are available through links on our module site to the library site. Don't go and copy and paste things. We want to see your understanding of it. Okay, of course you have to reference them, but don't copy and paste. And I will really dissuade you from Googling the question. I say this with the greater respect for amazing, data and all of that goes into making these wonderful search engines. You have to understand that a lot of information available online is not specific to South Africa. And you may end up inadvertently talking about laws from Australia or United States or UK, if you're looking at English sources. Secondly, even the South African sources, where a lot of the law firms have blogs, they are not peer reviewed. So please be very wary of putting forward somebody's opinion as a peer reviewed legal argument. Okay, be very careful of your sources. And this is, and I think this list I'm going to go through quite quickly. It's a little bit like talking down to you, and I apologize if you already know these things, but a lot of the time we use very specific words. So when we say, for example, analyze, we want you to take everything and break it down and tell us what everything means minutely, examine very critically. So all of these, I know it seems like, it's just words that you know, but they have very specific meaning when used in an educational context. So account for. We really, again, with all of these things, we want your answer not just setting out common knowledge, but really the detail, the reasoning, the legal reasoning, really. So assess, again, has a very specific meaning. You are saying, will this be a useful thing? There are some cases you'll see that we have actually prescribed to you cases that were criticized by authors, either of the textbook or in articles that who are the legal authorities in insurance law have written about. And there you have to look at the case and you say, well, this is the case. They made this decision. For example, the decision to allow the insurer to step into the shoes of the insured without in their own name, the insurer in their own name, and not utilizing the insured's name. That was a departure from South African law. They brought in concepts from English law, and it was highly criticized by legal authorities in South Africa. So the case is there so that you also understand the context within which it happens, and then you have to reference not just the case, but also the criticism. Compare, and this is what you've been asked to do. You are looking for similarities and differences. Yes. Criticize again, you will probably ask you with a specific case which was controversial that we prescribed to you. If you read the textbook, you'll see that it was controversial, and they are very strong arguments that are put forward. There you have to say, well, this happened, and this part of the decision was not, people were not happy with, and this is the reasoning behind it, and so forth. Contrast, oh, you're telling us the differences. Define. In law, the only instrument of our work is words and writing, and exact phrasing is of utmost importance. We cannot get things wrong. Words have very specific meaning. So when we say define, you'd have to be very, very, very precise. Of course, describe is to give a graphic account, discuss, tell us all the different sides to the story. Tell us what that means. What would the impact be? Evaluate, explain how far, and again, you're looking at what extent, and when, it's about weighing up arguments. Illustrate, when we say illustrate, we mean give us examples. So tell us what it is clearly and explicitly, and then give us examples to make that same point. Okay, interpret, again, usually, you are giving, usually you are giving a judgment, also making clear and explicit, but it has a different meaning. Justify, and here we want you to give us reasons that promote a very specific view. Outline, you're giving us a general view of what is happening. State, very brief. You have to give us a brief answer, but it still has to be complete. Summarize, and this is where this summarize is something that should just be part of who you are and what you do. You are given a list of cases, you are given articles to read. Not only should you read them more than once, but you should then summarize them, which means that you have to talk to only the important details. In a case, for example, where we talk to the fact that two people were married out of community property and the husband insured his wife's jewelry, it's an important detail that they were married out of community property. Because until that point, if you were married out of community property, they didn't necessarily think you had an insurable interest. This case changed it. So before that, only people who were married in community property were seen to have an insurable interest. So just remember, sometimes what seems like a minor detail is actually an important detail. So you have to be able to look at it and find the important things. The fact that somebody had a red car in an accident is not important. Okay. So having looked at all of the things, how do we ask questions, and what does that mean that you have to do? You then have to go, after you understand the question, and this is where we're just talking about understanding the questions. Now you understand the question, what do? You don't start writing just yet. You have to look at your sources. Where do you start? The study guide is just that. It is a guide. It gives you directions way to go. Yes, it's a skeleton of what that subject actually is. The rest of it, everything else that you need to know, start with the textbook. That's the first thing. You will find it is covered in the textbook. It will give you some details. And in the textbook, there might be references to case or article. And of course, in the study guide, there's also direction to whether there's a case or article. Look at the textbook, read the case or article. And then, of course, when you do it, you have to reference. For example, if you're referencing the textbook, and it is a strangely numbered textbook, you will be telling us, sorry, going back and going forth. There we go. That, you'll have to tell us the paragraph that it's in, And then, for example, an article, you will write down who the author was, what they were, you have to use the what we know as the Oscola style guide when referencing. So please know the College of Law style guide and you follow them. Yes? Excellent. And when you are reading the textbook, when you are reading the cases, when you are reading the articles, we don't want to see big chunks of copy and paste of pieces of any of that. What we want to see is your engagement with the sources. So we want to see that you've read it and summarized, and that you can explain in your own words what was there. And that shows us that you've understood what you read and summarized. And always go back and see, did I just write down what was there in the source? Always check. Yeah. So just make sure that you're not just, even if you think you're using your own words, confirm that you are. So this is just an example of how to do it. I think I've looked at this before, but just have a look again, I'm going to stop here. And I think Dr. Bambe, you will be taking over from here to talk about plagiarism in a bit of detail.
Yes, thank you, Miss. Okay, any questions before I start? Thank you, Miss Rafia. Anyone with questions? And then I can come in.
I think there are none for now. Shall I move to the slide?
Are they understanding us, the students that are present? Any questions?
I can't even, I can
Yes.
only see, yes.
Yes, we are present. Thank you. I think we are fine.
Okay.
Thank you, Prof.
There is a section at the end as well, just in case you get confused. Shall I move on, Dr. Bambe?
Yes, you can move on.
Yes.
Thank you.
Madam, you can move on.
Okay, great. Well, you don't have to, you must tell us what you think of. I mean, I really defer to Dr. Bambe here. She's an incredible researcher. So it's not just what's on the slide. She will give us great detail, I think.
Thank you for the compliment, Madam Rafia.
You're very welcome.
All right. Yeah, when you give me a chance, I'll try and explain what plagiarism is. Okay, thank you. You said something, Miss Rafia?
No, I didn't. I actually just I'm gonna try and mute myself. I think that's.
Oh, so I can come in and now talk of plagiarism. Okay, thank you. Before I start, I want to ask the students, do you have an idea of what plagiarism is? Just to have your idea, then I can go in. Mpo, are you there? Kagano, are you there? Give us an idea what plagiarism is.
My understanding about plagiarism is it's just to copy what is written in the book, and then you don't maybe make it a reference when you are citing that particular article, or just to copy what is on the book without any reference as well.
Thank you. And the other student, tell us what you think. Yes, Mpo, tell us what you think. All right, let me take it from here. Yes, thank you. Plagiarism has the idea or the element of copying. Oh, Mpo, you want to say something, but unmute yourself. We can't hear. I don't know if I can't hear anything that you're saying. You have muted. Now try to unmute yourself. Okay. You can come in and say what you want to say when I finish the presentation. No problem. It's just a brief presentation on plagiarism. So it has the idea of copying someone else's work and pretending it's your own. So with the definitions that I have, one of them says that plagiarism is the presenting of work or ideas from another source as your own, with or without consent of the original author, by incorporating it into your work without full acknowledgement. That's one of the definitions that I have. The other definition, let's see. The other definition looks or defines plagiarism as the process or practice of using another person's ideas or work and pretending that it is your own. Then you are accused of plagiarism. And then the third definition, someone says that to plagiarize means to steal and pass off. That is the ideas of or words of someone else as your own. And then the other one says plagiarism is the fraudulent representation of another person's language, thoughts, ideas, or expressions as one's own original work. So from these four definitions that I have, we have that idea of someone taking someone else's work. It could be written work, academic work, it could be art, it could be a song, it could be a design. You talk of intellectual property, their trademarks. You talk of stealing someone else's work and pretending that is your own. So that is what defines or involves plagiarism. And then I also want to look at what are the causes of plagiarism. And then I also want to look at the possible reasons, what we have, the types of, and then the types of plagiarisms that we have, and the consequences. And then I also give you examples of what we mean so that it makes sense. Okay, what I am seeing here. Okay, let me talk of, when you talk of the causes, these are the reasons that make someone want to plagiarize. In most cases, you will not be confident of your work. In most cases, also not knowing what the work requires you to do, not having understood what one has read, makes one think that they can easily take someone else's work and think it is their own. And then when you plagiarize now, you think that you get a very high mark. It's like a child who's learning from the mother how to speak or how to cook. You want to follow exactly what your mother has done, for you to try to cook exactly the way she does. But now when it's plagiarism, we are looking at people that are at an institution like UNISA, whereby you know what it means, you know what the consequence is, you know that it is a crime. So you should read a piece of work, you understand what it is, you acknowledge who wrote that work. Use what is required when you want to show that this work is not mine, but I'm using someone else's work and presenting my own thoughts. Because at a certain level, they do not, or the university does not expect you to create knowledge. We are learning what other people have written on a certain subject. And then from that, I'm going to give you the types of plagiarisms that we have. I can look at 4 types, which are common. We have what we call direct plagiarism, self-plagiarism, mosaic plagiarism, and accidental plagiarism. So there are different types of plagiarisms, and all are serious violations of academic honesty. We've defined the most common types, and which I'm going to present now. So direct plagiarism is the word for word transcription of a section of someone else's work without acknowledging, without quotation marks. So this is deliberate. You know that what I'm doing is wrong, but you continue. And we regard this as unethical and it's academic dishonesty and leads to disciplinary actions, or you can be expelled from the university. And then we talk of self-plagiarism. From the term self-plagiarism occurs when a student submits his or her own previous work or mixes parts of previous works without permission from either the professor or the supervisor or the lecturer. And then, for example, it would be unacceptable to incorporate part of a term paper you wrote in high school into a paper assigned in a college course. You can't copy something directly, you have to acknowledge. and should get the permission. And then we have mosaic plagiarism. This occurs when a student borrows phrases from a source without using quotation marks or finds synonyms for author's language while keeping to the same general structure and meaning of the original, sometimes called patch writing. So this is like paraphrasing, whether intentional or unintentional. Then we have accidental plagiarism. It's like you plagiarize somehow without knowing. It's by accident. So it is seen as, or this occurs when a person neglects to cite other sources or misquotes their sources or unintentionally paraphrases a source by using similar words or groups of words or sentence structures without attributing or without acknowledging. So students must learn how to cite their sources and to take careful and accurate notes when doing research. So, for instance, here we are using the Scholar referencing system. So you should learn what a scholar or scholar is, define what a scholar is, what does it require, how do you quote without plagiarism, what does it want you to do, what does it not want you to do, even the presentation of work when you're referencing. And then now we have also, I'm going to look at the consequences. So here, this is a university, and if you plagiarize, we have ways of noting that you've plagiarized. And in this case, when you're writing an assignment or exam, when you plagiarize, you either write one piece of work with 10 of your students. We can easily tell by reading one. If I read the first paper, I'm marking. If I read the second or the third, I can easily tell that this is not your work, and I can easily quote. And you'll be taken for disciplinary hearing. We go to the students, they say SDG, student disciplinary, it's like student disciplinary committee where they'll discuss your copying, your unethical copying, and then if you're in 4th year, you'll be suspended for a year. And then when you're suspended, you're forced to go for a course whereby you learn how not to copy or plagiarize. And then there's another thing whereby here at UNISA, we have other people that come in and say, I'm teaching a course, maybe in insurance law, come, I can do an assignment for you. That person who does that assignment for you can do an assignment for 50 people, and all of you will come up with exactly word for word. Students, you can copy each other, or maybe when you just Google an assignment question, you know, Google is very good at helping students, but you Google, we can easily tell that this is Googled. So that is a form of plagiarism, and plagiarism is not good for your reputation. It's a criminal offense, suspension, or you can be kicked out of the university. Yes, that is what I can say on plagiarism. And you can also, we avoid this by communicating, read and understand your work, communicate with your lecturers, communicate with your students, understand the questions, practice the questions well before, read to understand, and learn to present the work like we expect you to, the structure of the work, how you start, how you end. Use our sources that we know. If you use dubious sources which we do not know, it is plagiarism, and we can easily pick them one out. Yeah, so that is what I can say about plagiarism. Thank you, Ms. Rafia. Any questions from the students?
This.
Yes, Ms. Rafia, I can't hear anything.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
I just wanted to also, you know, there's a lot of interesting apps that are coming out. You know, there's ChatGPT and all of those sort of things. There's a lot of artificial intelligence that's in the mix. And as someone who has access to those apps, because I'm always interested in new technology, because of the other courses I teach, I can tell you that it's fairly easy to pick up when the writing is from those apps. And I think I would just like to make that very clear, that it is actually one of the stupider things I have come across. It invents sources. The writing is for basically high school, American high school level, if I can put it that way. So it's not going to help you. So that is just one last thing to just make sure the students understand that the artificial intelligence out there is not helpful to South African university students. I just thought it, because it is all of the information that it has, they stopped it's a closed system, so they stopped giving it information in 2021, and most of that information that it was given to train itself was from United States and Europe. So please don't use that. So that's just it's a bit of a thing. I know that we are going to over time start seeing those as well, and it's not going to be helpful. I'm just putting it out there, and hopefully not giving you ideas either, because I can tell you that thing is not smart. No matter how much it's called an intelligence, it doesn't engage with the material that you have. And if I may, thank you. I would just like to say thank you, Dr. Vambe. It was an incredible. It's great for you to have given that information to students, and I do think that most people have a very simple idea of what plagiarism is, and all of the other ways that could happen are very important, because it is sometimes just simply a mistake. It is just accidental. And we would just like you to be very careful when you are doing your assignments and your exam, because of course those are open book as well. And I think that's very, very important to know of all the different categories and to try your best to avoid them. As to the actual assignment, remember you're being asked to compare and contrast and give information. So you'd have to tell us what each of those things are. You have to tell us, and it says to give examples, come up with examples to, as part of that. And just know that you just remember to answer all of the things that you're being asked. I think it's fairly straightforward. It is the first section of the work that you've covered. It is the first section, and the narrated PowerPoints on those sections is already up. I know the access to my modules is unstable right now, but those have been up for a while. I think for the last 2 weeks or so. So keep in mind, I post them as you're meant to study. So it's to complement your studying. So you're meant to schedule your studying. And of course, then we have the narrated PowerPoints to guide you through the work. And again, those are only guidance for you. You are still meant to study the textbook, the legislation, and the cases. In addition to those, that's your primary things that you have to study. The other things are there to just guide you through the material. I would really like to thank both of you for being here. I don't know what happened, Dr. Vambe. We recorded it, and it seems that it stopped recording at some point.
So are you referring to this class? It is still recording on my part.
Is it still on your side?
Yeah,
Okay, I'm glad it's recording somewhere.
So
okay, great, because mine actually shows record and transcribe, not stop. So I nearly had a heart attack. So perhaps, I don't know, maybe it's just transferred to you, but I'm just glad I'm now calm again, because I really want to make sure that the students have access to this thing. The section on plagiarism is going to be essential for them throughout their studies, for every single subject, please. It's something that you have to guard against, more or less for the rest of your life. Even when you are drawing up contracts, don't just copy and paste contracts. Don't recycle them that way. You have to make it personal to your client. So all of that will apply for the rest of your life, please. And I just wanted to thank the two of you that are here, Sarah and Paul. Thank you so much for coming. Dr. Vambe, thank you for your wise words. And have a great afternoon. If you have any questions, please speak now before I sign off and before I give to Dr. Vambe to sign off. Do you have any questions, Sarah?
Yes, I do. Thank you so
Good.
much for the presentation. It's very fruitful, and yeah, but I think struggling a bit in the area of more especially when there is a word that you are struggling to change it to make it clear. So I usually use the quotations. Is it am I going to be penalized if I do that? Just quote the same sentence as it is, or there is a way that maybe we allow us to do only using maybe one sentence, two sentences, or three.
Yeah.
How long can it
Yeah.
be? Yes,
So
ma'am.
Sarah, I think and Dr. Bombay, you have to come in after I've spoken.
Okay.
So when we talk
Mm.
about this,
Mm.
we don't want big pieces of material. So don't copy and paste a paragraph from somewhere. But if
Okay.
there's a specific sentence, like the judge said something very specifically, or there's a very good explanation of a concept, you can put that in, and you have to say this, you have to put a footnote and tell us where you got it from. Dr.
Okay.
Bombay?
Yes, thank you, Madam Rafia.
Mm.
I'm trying to look for examples. Let's see. Okay, from what I have here, say you are quoting, there is what we call copy and paste. Copying and pasting is just highlighting something and then putting it in your work and pretend it's your work. So we use what is called turn it in. The system has something called turn it in. So we can easily, or I can just take your work and put it as turn it in, and then I can easily see where you got what is the percentage and everything. So that is not allowed. When you are quoting something, you are quoting something that is in the main point of your argument. That's what you put in. You put it in quotes. Taking someone else's work, and you have to put it in quotes. And then quotation marks that show that it is not your work, and then you identify the person. At the end of that quotation, put what is called a footnote. This is now under referencing. You put what is called a footnote, and then you write the source. And then there is something which is also like copying and pasting, where you paraphrase. You take someone else's words and pretend that they're your own. You just change one or two. You're explaining what someone is exactly explained, and you do not give a source. That one is also the same as copying and pasting, because it is not allowed. It is against. It's unethical.
Okay.
And then copying different elements of different sources. You have different, say Madame Rafia has written something and I have written something. You copy what I have, you copy what someone else has, and then you say, they wouldn't know. Because when these people write their things, we can easily tell that a student cannot bring in this answer. We have an example of an answer that we want. And if we find you putting in something that is a bit too advanced, we can tell that that does not belong to you. So you can give quotes. You're allowed to give quotes. Make sure when you quote someone, when you reference, do it properly. Are we together? When you are using someone else's work, acknowledge it. According to what, admit that is not your work. And it should add value to what you'll have written, not just to take. Sometimes students are just happy and to show the lecturer that they can reference. They'll just take anyone's words, big names, and start writing them down. I take this statement, I say it's Rafia who wrote. I take this statement, I say it's Dr. Vambe who wrote. We don't allow that. We have sources that we want you to work on, like with the textbook and certain things that appear in the textbook. And we have a way in which we want you to submit your work. So referencing is the scholar. All the information is in the chat later. If you have any questions, you can always write an email and we can try and explain.
Okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So the sources that you want us to use are the ones that will only appear on the textbooks, or we can even go further to, as you're saying, we can also Google and also do the referencing at the end.
Dr. Bombay, I don't know. I'm a bit wary of Google. If you want to do further research, go to the library site. You have the cases and articles that are also prescribed to you, which means they have to be read, they have to be understood. So look at those as well, but use the library site. Google I would use even Scholar Google. Scholar Google is like academic. It's more, it is more academic in nature. But I personally only use it, and I only advise my final year and master students to use it in conjunction with the UNISA library. So scholarly articles, it'll show you them, but you can only have access through the university. So it's easier to use Google sometimes, but use Scholar Google.
Google, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Please.
Thank
Say
you so much.
something?
Sure,
Yes.
go ahead. Go ahead.
In most cases, we have the textbook. The textbook has sources that you're supposed to use.
Yes.
If you Google, what Google will give you as an answer is not what we're expecting. In most cases, you'll get it wrong. And maybe you don't reference, you'll have plagiarized.
Okay.
Are you getting me there?
Yeah, no,
Use the
I'm not a fan of
textbook
Google
and
on
the
its
things
own.
that are appearing. That when you want extra knowledge, but what we have, I think, with the sources that we've given you, I think they are sufficient. You can easily get a distinction.
Okay.
Yes. So if you are one day you come back as a master student for insurance, I'd love to see more of those, more research. But we have given you enough. However, if you still want to know, as I said, use any search engines, but you go through the library.
Okay.
Peer-reviewed articles, that's what we're looking for.
Okay.
Scholarly writing.
Okay.
Yes, and also start your assignment on time. What makes one wants to use Google at the end is because you don't have time. You just have 2 hours left and you just want to submit. Take your time, just to understand the work, and things will be fine.
And with my modules being unstable, please start on time. Upload it before if you can.
Yes,
just to be sure.
It will crash. You'll fail to submit, and I don't know. Sometimes
please
we
don't
can't.
leave it to the
We can't
last
promise you what can happen.
Yes.
We don't know because we do not control these things.
And while it's still being recorded, lecturers have no control. We do not give extensions. We don't make those decisions. So just please be aware of that. I mean, we are all, I feel so bad for the students, but we don't have that power.
Okay.
Yeah. Paul, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any so far. So
good. Paul, you sound like you're in a game reserve.
No.
No, you sound very far away. No, I understand. You're just technology doesn't work always.
Yeah.
I know. Thank you. No, thank you very much. I think I've said everything that I needed to say, Dr. Bambe.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rafia, for the presentation, and thank you, students, for coming. And yeah, we will talk. This one is just ringing.
And
thank you.
And if you have any very specific insurance law content queries, what does this concept mean? Firstly, it cannot be a whole chapter, it cannot be a whole section. If you have very specific questions about concepts and things like that, email us. We are very good at replying. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.